Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern today. It's Wednesday and the patch is actually already live, which means it's time for us to go through the top 5 changes of patch 14.9. I'll let you guys know what the biggest changes were on this week's patch and what you can be looking forward to in your coming games. Now 14.9 is a bit of a weird one. There aren't a ton of changes, but there are still a lot of very important things that we need to talk about, so let's go ahead and hop right into things, starting off with the number 5 change, the rollout of Vanguard. I hate to make the same joke in 2 consecutive videos, but dread it. Run from it, Vanguard arrives all the same. Now, for those of you who are wondering what this means for you, first, you will need Vanguard from this point on to play League of Legends. If you don't already have it installed, you can download it from Riot's website, or League of Legends will prompt you to install it when you first try to start patching the game for 14.9. It will say, oh, you need Vanguard in order to play the game, and it will prompt you for a system restart after it successfully installs Vanguard before you can actually get the patch. From that point on, Vanguard will need to be running for you to play League of Legends. Vanguard only ever starts when your system does, which means that even if you do close out Vanguard when you decide you don't want to play League of Legends that day, you will have to then restart your system if you do decide you want to play League of Legends later on that day, because Vanguard needs to be running the whole time. Now, I've talked a lot about this in a previous video, which I'll have a link in the description, so I won't rehash most of it. Suffice it to say, I'm not happy about Vanguard's rollout, but I understand why Riot are doing it, and we'll see how this shapes up for Riot overall. But keep in mind that this is a thing as of today's patch. Moving on down to the number 4 change here, close that out. We're going to be talking about the Ahri nerfs. Now, Ahri has been a very powerful champion in professional play, especially over the last couple of weeks, most notably because of how much ultimate ability haste she got. Between Malignance and her R resetting, Ahri could basically have a ton of free mobility, while also splashing a ton of unavoidable damage onto enemy teams because of her R's homing projectiles in conjunction with her W's homing projectiles, meaning that Ahri sort of didn't need to land Orb Deception or Charm to kill you. She just dashed next to you, press W, and you just kind of die, especially because of the extra Malignance damage on top of that. Riot are taking a swing at having some of this unavoidable power to make it so that Ahri has to rely on landing her skill shots to actually get some degree of value. Accordingly, Foxfire's damage is down and Spirit Rush's cooldown is up by a substantial margin at later ranks as well. So Ahri in the early game won't feel as bad, but Ahri in the later stages of the game will feel a lot weaker and won't have as ready access to her ultimate, and therefore as ready access to her free Malignance damage. I'm a big fan of these changes, and I think they'll do a lot to help Ahri feel a little bit better to play against moving forwards. Moving on to the number 3 change, we're going to be talking about Blitzcrank. Blitz is sort of in a weird space. Riot have expected them to be fairly weak, because people are expecting, because Blitz is a very popular champion, people play them a lot, so they should have a relatively lower win rate, but the numbers are basically suggesting that Blitzcrank is too strong. Riot are taking a swing here at Blitzcrank's reliability, not necessarily making Blitzcrank's hook, their defining trait, weaker, but making the rest of what Blitz does around the hook weaker. Accordingly, Overdrive's movement speed is weaker, and most notably, Mana Barrier's duration is down from 10 seconds to 4. This means that there is a ton of less reliability in Blitzcrank's initiation. If they step up and fire hook that misses, and Mana Barrier procs, they don't have basically a get-out-of-jail-free card, nor do they have that anymore with Overdrive's bonus movement speed, letting them run away from situations that are bad. They can just be punished now because the shield doesn't last as long. They don't get away as easily, which means that the good Blitzcrank players who hit hooks constantly aren't going to be as punished by these changes, but the bad Blitzcrank players, the ones that can't reliably land hooks, are going to be suffering quite a bit on this patch. I think this is a very good change for Blitzcrank overall, and I'm excited to see how this shapes up for them moving forwards. Moving on to the number 2 changes here, we're going to be talking about some of the fighter itemization updates. Riot are trying to shuffle around some of the power that fighters have been getting from their items with a couple of very spicy changes that I wanted to highlight here today. First is the change to Maul of Malmortius. Now, this is an item that Riot thinks is too good at just completely shutting down AP champions against fighters, and as a result, Riot want to retune this to make it a lot more enticing to light fighters, think Fiora or Riven, that kind of champion, and less about just saying, hey mage, you cannot hurt me in any way, shape, or form. Accordingly, it no longer gives as much magic resistance, but now gives ability haste, and most importantly, the lifeline buff has been changed from lifesteal to Omnivamp. Now, this is problematic for a number of reasons. Riot has tried to make Omnivamp a thing, and have basically always failed. It's always been too good, especially on the kind of light fighters that Riot want to build it. Suffice to say, I think Omnivamp will, I think Maul Malmortius will now be built on basically any champion that remotely can think of a reason to build it, right? Like, oh, there is an AP champion in the game, I'm building Maul. I'm against an AP champion in lane, I'm building Maul. That kind of thing, I think is going to be that strong. Death Stance and Steric's Gauge have also been changed a little bit. Death Stance has been made a little bit more enticing for those light fighters as well because of the Defy healing being bumped in terms of the bonus AD, just as well as just being more AD in general. Steric's Gauge has received a very small nerf because it's generally been the best defensive item that any fighter could buy on this patch. And Sundered Sky and Eclipse have both received some small nerfs as well to reduce the amount of burst in the game, but also to remove the amount of healing that Sundered Sky was giving. I think these changes are all relative power downs for fighters, unless you are a light fighter like Riven, at which point you are very happy with all of these changes. I'll be excited to see how these shape up, but suffice to say, if you can build Mob Malmortius in a game and you're playing a light fighter, do it. It's gonna be really good on you. Finally, the number one change on this week's patch are the nerfs to Skarner. Now, to be fair, I knew Skarner was busted from day one. I wasn't trying to do any of that W Arcane Comet shenanigans that I know people were like trying to do top lane, but that champion felt extremely powerful to me once I kind of got the hang of how his E works. And even though on the last patch Riot sort of just re-changed his power a little bit, I still felt he was too good. So these nerfs are totally fair for Skarner to get. I don't think they're too bad, to be completely honest. Skarner's losing a little bit of damage off of his Q. Actually, not a little bit, a lot of damage off his Q. It's 20 damage at max rank, which is on every hit, which means Skarner is really doing a lot less damage with his bread and butter ability. And Seismic Bastion's slow has been normalized to 20% at all ranks, as well as shielding him for a little bit less. Now this slow I'm a little sad about. I don't feel like that was too much power for Skarner to have up to a 40% slow at max rank, especially given that I at least was last maxing it. But I understand that Skarner did need nerfs, and I think these are hitting him in correct places, making him a little less sticky, doing a little less damage, and not being quite as tanky, just a general power down for Skarner. Very happy with these changes, and I'm excited to see what this means for Skarner going forwards. And that's going to be it for me today, guys. Those are the top 5 changes of patch 14.9. Let me know what you're most excited for down in the comments section below. I'm just hoping my PC can handle the Vanguard. But if you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.